Let's talk about the reason why a lot of Republican leaders say they're expressing such anxiousness these days, and that is your call Monday for a, quote, total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S. There's now some polling information, and you cite polls all the time. You say, what can you go by if not the polls? And a majority of Americans, 58%, reject this call, reject this proposal to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. Now, I know your supporters agree with you, but this is a poll of the American people writ large.
I didn't do it for polls, so I don't even care what the polls say. I didn't do it for polls. Now, my polls happen to have gone up a lot since this announcement. A lot of people thought it would go down. I didn't do it for that reason, but with that being understood, when you're getting a phone call from a polling agency and they're saying, well, you support, the banning of Muslims, et cetera, do you think they're going to say, who's going to say yes? I don't think the polls are accurate. At the same time, I have many friends that are Muslims, and I will tell you, they are so happy that I did this because they know they have a problem. There is a problem.
Your Muslim friends
radicalized,
are happy?
I have many friends and at the highest level, and they're grateful. I have partners that are Muslim. I have unbelievable relationships.
They support a ban on Muslims entering the U.S.
They said, no. They said it's about time that somebody spoke up as to radicalism. You have radicalism in this country. It's here, and it's trying to come through. I just read where ISIS has gotten a hold of a passport printing machine for the migrants to get them into the United States. Now, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. It's an early report. But how crazy are we allowing ourselves to be subject to this kind of terror?
I don't think anyone doubts that radical Islam is a big problem. But I think the question is your proposed solution a good thing or not? Let me just...
Well, in my solution, it's a temporary solution.
Until
and
when?
Obviously, till we get our hands around the problem. We have a real problem. We have people coming into the country, getting into airplanes and flying them into the World Trade Center. Look at Russia. That was a problem. I mean, with the airplane coming down, we have all over. You look at California, this woman comes in, this horrendous woman comes into the country, radicalized. She gets through on a fiancé passport. I never even heard of a fiancé visa. And she comes in, she's with the guy, and they just killed 14 people with more to come because there are people so badly hurt that they're going to be dying also. So we have to get our act together. Again, my relationship with the Muslim community is excellent. I've had people call me at the highest level saying you're doing us a favor because they know they have a problem very well. I mean, they really know they have a problem.
But they don't support the ban, you said. They don't support stopping all Muslims.
They just like the idea that somebody's talking about it. Nobody talks about it. It's not politically correct. It's like the guy that saw all the bombs lying on the floor of the apartment in California. He didn't want to do it. You know why he didn't want to do it? He didn't want to report them, which is nonsense. He said it was racial profiling.
Well, I think that was a story it was from a local CBS about a woman who had seen a lot of young Arab or Muslim men.
I don't know. I don't believe. Honestly, do you believe a racial profiling?
But that was about a group of...
Because they didn't want to be accused of racial profiling.
But they didn't see bombs, is the point. It was because they saw a lot of young Muslim men.
They saw something. They didn't want to call because they thought they didn't want to be accused of racial profiling. It sounds like a lawyer gave them that idea.
Well, let's talk about this from a national security perspective, because I was talking to an official who said, look, suppose there's a 22-year-old Muslim American out there who is already feeling alienated, and he turns on the TV and he sees the leading Republican presidential candidate by far saying total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the U.S., and the room goes crazy.
By the way, it's not total and complete, and it's temporary, but let me just say, you're going to have exceptions.
A quote, total and complete.
Oh, you're going to have exceptions. You're going to have people coming in, and you're going to get people in.
Okay, but let me just finish my question, which is, this 22-year-old sees that. Okay. And what the official said to me is, do you think that 22-year-old, seeing Donald Trump saying that with all those people cheering, do you think that disenfranchised, disaffected 22-year-old Muslim American is less or more likely to turn to ISIS?
Jake, we got to stop the problem. We can talk about it. We can talk about it forever. There's a real problem, and it's called radical Islamic
terrorism. Are you making
terrorism.
It worse? Is the
Wait a
question.
minute. And we have, look, what's worse? Is it worse when they shoot 14 people and kill 14 people and many others laying in the hospital? What about in Paris, where they have hundreds of people dead in Paris? Same thing. It's Paris, but same thing. and many more people going to die. They're laying in the hospital practically dead. We got to stop the problem. There's a real problem. Now, since this, Paris has been very tough on the mosques. They've been very tough on surveillance. All of a sudden, they're becoming tough. But we got to stop the problem. Now, we can be politically correct, and I could say, oh, well, no, there's no problem. And we'll go on forever.
No, I'm agreeing with you there's a problem.
Jake,
I'm agreeing.
Why are people blowing airplanes out of the air?
I'm agreeing with you, but my question is potentially alienating 1.6 billion Muslims, is that a solution to the problem, or does that create more problems? Let me put it this way. I read a story today about women of accomplishment from 2015 who hadn't gotten much press attention. Two of the first listed were women I'm sure you would admire. One is named Nulafar Ramadi. She's Afghanistan's first female pilot in the Air Force since the Taliban fell. The other one was Kubra Kademi. She walked through the streets of Kabul wearing metal armor to protest the harassment that she and other women would go through in Kabul on a daily basis. These are two women who do more to combat Islamic extremism than I do, than you do, and yet they would be banned.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Who told you that? Who told you that? I mean, you just tell me about one's a pilot, one's. Who told you they do more than you do?
Well, I'm just saying, I see it on what they do. Okay. One of them is fighting insurgents.
Good. I think that's good. I think it's good.
But you would ban them from coming into this country.
Look. I don't know anything about the women you just mentioned. Okay.
But
my
a lot
point
of good people.
They are when the woman came in, just so you understand, when the woman came in as the fiancée,
right?
Everybody said, "Oh, isn't that lovely? She's a fiancée." She came and she was radicalized. Whether she radicalized him or they were both, I think they were probably both. But all they had is bad intentions. I'm only saying this. There's a group of people, it's a problem. And everybody knows it's a problem. And nobody wants to talk about it. And a lot of people agree with what I'm saying. And if you read a lot of the papers, especially the international papers, where they do have massive problems with this, I'm getting a lot of support. Now, it's temporary, but we have to get our arms around the situation.
Who are you getting
Let me just
from?
tell you, well, take a look, read the newspapers, read international
but I saw Netanyahu
newspapers.
put out a statement distancing himself from you.
Well, when
David
you say,
Cameron
no, not
did.
distancing himself. I had a meeting with Netanyahu. I could be at the meeting right now.
But he condemned your remarks, is all I'm saying.
He did, and that was sort of interesting. He modestly condemned him, and I thought it was somewhat inappropriate that he condemned him, but that's okay. He wanted to condemn him. That's what he does, okay? But we have a problem. I'm not looking to be politically correct. I'm doing this to do the right thing. This and other things. When I say this, I'm running to do the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. Our country has a problem. People are in fear. They're waiting for the next attack. We have a president that won't even mention the name of the problem. He will not utter the words. It's ridiculous. We have a president.
You know why he won't, though, right? It's the same reason Bush was reluctant to.
I don't believe that.
I
don't believe that he's not doing it, and Hillary Clinton won't do it either.
But their explanation is that it feeds into what ISIS wants, which is this to be a showdown between the West and Islam.
Okay, and I say it differently. You have to identify the problem, okay? It's a real problem.
I call it radical Islam too, but I'm just saying that's why he does it.
Well, he's wrong. You have to identify the problem. He is not identifying the problem. He's wrong. She's wrong. Hillary Clinton is wrong. She's been wrong about a lot of things, but she's wrong. And if you don't identify the problem, you're never going to solve the problem.
I just want to ask you one more question about that, and then I want to move on to some other topics, which is the question about whether or not this is constitutional. 2/3 of the American people, 67%, says that banning Muslims from entering the country would go against the founding principles.
Well, first of all, they're not citizens, okay? I agree if you're in the country. And as you know, if you're in the country, I'm not talking about that.
Right.
Although I am saying you have to surveil. There has to be surveillance.
Courts have found that constitutional principles do apply to people who are not American citizens.
Hey, look, I'm about security. I'm about safety. I'm about borders. One of the reasons I'm sitting here and one of the reasons I'm so high in the polls is because it all started with the borders. And let me tell you, when I came out and announced that I was running for president, I took much more heat when I said illegal immigration and the borders, the southern borders, and the wall, and all of that, than I ever took for this. And I think you'll probably see that, but maybe a lot of people don't remember that. Within 4 weeks, all of a sudden, everyone started saying, you know, Trump is sort of right. Then time went by, and you had the killing of Kate and Jamil, and you had the female, incredible woman, 66-year-old veteran, who was raped, sodomized, and killed by an illegal immigrant. All of a sudden, they're saying, wow, and you have thousands of cases that are a disaster, and jobs and economy and everything else, people pouring across the border. Now, when I first came out, you said, and everybody said, wow, that's heat. I took more heat than anybody's. That was much more so than this. Now it's become everybody's trying to get in on that whole thing.
So do you think that your Republican colleagues are going to be sounding like you on this issue in a few weeks?
I think they are, and I think that may be different in different ways, but I think they are. And I think it's something that had to be brought to the forefront. I think it's a very important thing to do. I don't like doing it, but I think it's something that had to be. It's temporary. You have exceptions. You're going to have people. We want to find out what's going on. Here's what I want to ask. Why is there such hatred? Why is there such death? Where does this hatred come from?
But that when you get the answers to those questions, that's when you're going to...
I want to at least know where it's coming from. Why is it happening? And it's from a group of people. It's from a specific group of people. Okay? Why is there such total hatred? We have to know the answer, or we're never going to have a safe country. And if we continue to be politically correct and we don't want to talk about it, it's something that has to be talked about. And
you said you were all about security.
And listen, when my friends call me up, and they call me up very strongly, and they say, it's something, and these are Muslims, and they say, it's something, Donald, that has to be talked about.
But they don't support the ban.
Not really. I mean, why would they support the ban? But without the ban, you're not going to make the point. You're not going to be able to make the point.
But can I just make one last final point on this issue, and then I do want to move on to some others, which is you said, I was asking about the Constitution, you said you're all about security. So you're all about security even if it's against the Constitution?
No. I'm the biggest believer in the Constitution. But the Constitution also provides security. I mean, we have a Constitution that says, as an example, Second Amendment.
I'm talking about the First. I know you like the Second Amendment, but
I love the Second Amendment, and I love the First Amendment. But I love the Second, because if they had, as an example, in California, if a couple of people like me had guns taped to their ankle or their waist, and these two horrible people came in, you wouldn't have all the death. You wouldn't have it. So look, I'm a big believer in the Constitution, okay? But I'm a big believer in safety. We have to have the right people coming into our country. We can't have people coming in. When I hear that ISIS has now a passport machine to make false passports, counterfeit passports.
Syed Farouk was an American citizen born in this country.
Well, he got radicalized. Why did he get radicalized? How about the Boston bombers? They came in, they were very young, and they were radicalized, okay? And they did the horrible thing with the Boston Marathon. The point is, there's something really bad going on. We have to find out why. And it's with a very specific group of people.